Good morning, good morning. And it's good to be here with you. And certainly we're glad you've taken this time out to spend a little time with us representing the New Asia Baptist Church. Coming to you this morning, feeling the spirit and the accomplishment of those who've gone on before us. I'm reminded of that little wood church where I was baptized so many years ago. To the family of the Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church down in Ripley, Tennessee, in Lauderdale County. And I'm reminded there that Pastor J.E. Sullivan, an American Baptist College alum and a native of New Orleans, made his way to this area and became a major influence on a lot of young boys and girls, men and women. Going on to be with the Lord now, but we're grateful to God for all that He did and all that He impressed upon us. But I'm telling you, back then, so many souls were saved. Amen. We don't own the rights to this music, but we're just allowing it to help us this morning as we attempt to help you. Amen. Mighty, mighty good time. Amen, amen, amen. We're coming to you this morning from the New International Version. And we're going to be looking, first book of the Bible, we're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 41. And we're going to look at, start at verse number 41. Amen. Genesis chapter 41 and then verse number 41. So one of the things that I want to say this morning is, first of all, I want to say good morning to all of my church family. Good morning to all of my brothers and sisters and friends. Good morning to the blue and white family. And good morning to all of you who are just tuning in and maybe just happen upon this message. We pray that you will indeed be blessed by it. So when we get to Genesis chapter 41, and then we'll look at also starting at verse number 41, you will find these words. A little bit of reading this morning, a little long for, I know, this platform, but I want to try to get this in. Amen. So in Genesis chapter 41 and starting at verse 41, you'll find these words. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in fine robes. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in his chariot as his second in command, and the people shouted before him, make way. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, but without your word, no one will lift a hand or foot in all of Egypt. Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zophani-Parnay and gave him Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph went throughout the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered into service, and Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout Egypt during the 7 years of abundance, and the land produced plentifully. Joseph collected all the food produced in those 7 years of abundance in Egypt and stored them in the cities. In each city, he put food grown from the fields surrounding it. Joseph stored up huge quantities of grain, like the sand of the sea. It was so much that he stopped keeping record because it was beyond measure. Before the years of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. Joseph named his firstborn Manasseh and said, "It is because God has made me forget all my troubles and all my father's household." The second son he named Ephraim and said, "It is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." The 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. Then there was famine in all the other lands, but in the whole land of Egypt there was food. When all Egypt began to feel the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Then Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you." When the famine had spread over the whole country, Joseph opened up the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout Egypt, and all the whole world came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph, because the famine was severe everywhere. Amen.
Amen.
The word of God
Amen.
for the people of God, and let those people say amen. Amen.
Amen.
I want to read that because I have struggled a little bit in my study and preparing as to whether we should illuminate for you today the subject matter of God will make you fruitful in the land of your suffering, or whether we should illuminate for you today that crisis requires leadership. So I've struggled, and I haven't really concluded, because my mind is caught between the fact that in this pandemic, God continues to bless us. In these Americas, we African Americans have become like that old bob and weevil toy of the 60s. You could knock it down, but it would get back up. Amen. And I struggle between saying to you today that America has a vacuum in leadership, from everything to its White House, to its Senate chambers, to its state houses, down to its mayors, right down to councilmen and aldermen and school board members. There's a vacuum of leadership. And we look at this text, and we come to this text, and this text is rich with the notion of what God will do in a moment of trouble. The history behind the text is the fact that Joseph is now out of jail, out of prison, if you would, because he shared a dream. At least he revealed to someone the meaning of the dream. And as a result, he was mentioned to Pharaoh, and then he tells Pharaoh his dream when he saw the 7 fat calves and the 7 skinny ones. And he told him, look, 7 fat going to mean years of plenty, things are going to be good. He said, but then let me tell you something. 7 bad years are going to come. Famine's going to be in the land, and people are going to be suffering and hurting and wanting to know what to do. He said, but if you take up at least a fifth, put somebody in charge of it that's going to do right by it, and then we'll be okay. Not just you, Pharaoh, but the whole land of Egypt will be okay. In fact, not only will you be able to save Egypt, but you'll be able to save places around Egypt. Amen. And the problem is when you come to a moment like this, what should be in your mind is you can't do these kinds of work when you're selfish. Amen. You can't do this kind of work when it has to always be about you. You can't do this kind of work is that the only somebody can put forth a good idea is you. Because you have to accept the ideas of others to make this kind of thing work.
Amen.
And then I'm sitting here and my mind is just running all over the place. I'm sitting here and I'm reminded of the news on last evening in Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the terrorists. They were terrorists, Confederates, because they fought against the Union. But now, in what they once called their capital, their monuments have come down.
Amen.
Amen.
It's a good day to be alive in America because my mom and dad have gone on. Stuff they struggled and fought for. They would have loved to have been here to see this moment when things start moving in the right direction.
Amen.
Right there.
You sit here and you have to just ask yourself, how did it happen? Finally, Mississippi has decided to take the stars and bars from its state flag. No longer to be flown over the state capital of Mississippi.
Amen.
Finally,
Amen.
removing it, treating it like it ought to be treated. A relic of American history, but not history that should be celebrated
Amen.
with gleeful cheers of what happened.
Amen.
Because many people lost their lives and their whole savings. And for what? But just to try to hold this nation, this experiment of democracy together. And we're at that same crossroad right now. And that's why I said we need leadership that's going to help us hold this experiment of democracy together.
Amen. Amen.
Listen to me when I tell you just real quick, because I'm not going to be able to deal with this. I know the way I want to, because I want to be true to this platform, and I don't want to hold us too long. And I may wind up having to visit this again and go one way today and go another way at another time. But when you think about what's going on in the text, when you think about in verse 41, Pharaoh realizes what leaders ought to realize. I might be the leader, but you got a good idea.
Amen.
I might be the leader, but you got an idea that's not only going to save me and make me look good, but going to save all of us, and you're going to look good too.
Amen.
And the problem is, in America and many of the things we deal with today, we got too many people who have the power, who don't realize power used wrongly is nothing but hurt and harm on people.
Amen.
It's only when power is used correctly that people will jump up and cheer. And it's only when power is used correctly should someone build monuments to your honor.
Amen.
You don't need a monument. You hurt and pillage people and rape people and enslave people. You don't need a monument.
Amen. That's right.
Now that may not fit everybody, just like I'm saying, but to a lot of folk, they didn't need no monument.
Amen. So
Pharaoh, in the text, Pharaoh is coming to this conclusion, a wise conclusion. Joseph, he tells him earlier in the text, if God told you all this, then I don't need to be looking for somebody else to put over this. If God told you all this, I'm putting you over this.
Amen.
And he goes on and he tells Joseph, and he lets Joseph know in verse 42, he takes his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph. Then he puts a gold chain on the neck, letting people know that this might have been the dude from prison. This might have been the dude that y'all thought was just broke, busted, and disgusted, but he ain't in that group no more. This dude has been elevated.
Amen.
See, and a lot of times it's your attitude that'll help your altitude. See, a lot of times people can't go up because their attitude messed up.
Amen.
Get your attitude together, and God may just let you move up.
Amen.
And don't worry about it if everybody around you don't know you moved up. God knows.
That's right.
And you know.
Amen.
And let that sometimes be enough. Then he had him in verse 43 to ride in his chariot in the second of command post. The people went before him and said, make way. Then he told them, thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt.
Holy.
Here is Joseph. been in a hole where his brother put him in, sold to the Mennonites, then sold down in Egypt.
Amen.
Was trying to do some work around the house, and the head lady of the house grabbed a hold to him and wanted him to get into an illicit affair. He says to the lady, look, I don't have no problem. I'm in charge of everything in this house. I'm told to deal with everything in this house but you. And I'm not dealing with you. See, Joseph had sense. See, some people don't have sense enough to know when you got a good thing, don't mess it up.
Amen.
He didn't want to mess it up. So I think I want to just settle in right now and tell you that when we think about these monuments coming down, when we think about the fact that we have right now 2 African-American male senators and 1 female senator of color, that's something to be excited about. When we think about the many places now that have African-American mayors, when we think about the places that have African-American police chiefs and fire chiefs, that's something to be excited about.
Amen.
When we think about the fact that people no longer right now in this moment are not looking at HBCUs as some kind of, junior college, but rather a place to go where you can be developed into the pride and the prideful person to take forward the message that we as a people have made a commitment to these Americas, to all these 50 states. And that yes, this is our home.
Amen.
It's sad that we got to shout, just like people who've integrated up from the South. We got to start shouting to people, this is my home.
Amen.
People want you to go back. I saw just even on last night in Walmart, 4 African-American males walked in that didn't have what you might want to call a traditional mask. 2 young Caucasian girls walked up and said, well, I just saw 2 guys coming here without a mask. And you need to tell them put their mask on. And the greeter said, I did tell them to put their mask on. He had it in his hand. He put it on. Well, I tell you what, when I see them, this is the little white girl again, when I see them, I'm going to have words with them. Yeah. And I thought to myself, here we go. Because if the 2 of you, and one of the little girls had an injured leg, and I said, now if the 2 of you have words with those 4 young men, there's going to be some trouble.
Amen.
I mean, she was around there looking. I probably shouldn't have been going along, but I got caught up in it too, so I'm just pushing my cart. And I'm getting my phone and stuff ready. I want to see what's happening here. But I'm going to tell you how good God is. God is good because the little girl with the hurt leg, her leg began to hurt from all that trying to walk around and keep up. And she grabbed the girl by the arm and got her off that journey and said, look, I got to go back and get one of these riding buggies and sit down.
Amen.
Y'all can go and say hallelujah.
Amen.
Because some mess that might have got started didn't get started.
Amen.
But who are you?
That's right. You.
To try to tell somebody what to do. When I see somebody don't have a mask on, I move away from that area immediately.
Amen.
I dodge them just like you contagious. I don't know if you are or not, but to me you are, and I'm moving away from you.
Amen.
So I want to tell us today, and I'm going to be done with it here in a minute now, but I want to go ahead and tell us that God will make you fruitful.
Amen.
In the land of your suffering.
Amen.
See, look what God is doing. God is putting us in places that we traditionally had not been, and he's doing it in the very land where they shoot us down in the street.
Amen.
In the very land where they hanged us for nothing.
Amen.
That's why I'm kind of leery of that statement, low-hanging fruit. Because in my age group, when I hear that, I start to think of you referencing somebody hanging from a tree. Because most folks weren't hung high. They were hung low enough for somebody to grab them, take them on down, and carry them on off to be buried accordingly. So when I think about those things, I'm thinking about God is on the move, and folk want to stop it, but you can't stop God.
Amen.
He ain't big enough.
Amen. That's right.
And when God want to get something done, it's going to get done.
Amen.
And listen to me when I tell you this real quick. Then, and we come on down in the text, it said, then in verse 44, it said, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, but without your word, no one will live hand or foot in all of Egypt. See, tell me, look now, I'm Pharaoh, but you in charge. See, sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget when we get in our work groups. You might be in charge of something, but you're not the main person. So be careful what you do, because when you start messing up the main person, some things going to happen.
Amen.
And probably not in your favor. And my first point is that God will give you another chance.
Amen.
Look at all the stuff that Joseph had gone through. Sometime in life we just don't get it right. And we need another chance.
Amen.
In America, we African Americans are once again coming to you saying, America, we're going to give you another chance.
Amen.
We're going to give you another chance to do right by our children in education.
Amen.
Do right by fair housing practices.
Amen.
Do right by the loans you give at the bank.
Amen.
Do right by the laws that you're making in all these state houses and county seats. Do right.
Amen.
Because we're giving you another chance.
Another chance.
Do right and see our humanity and stop hurting and harming us.
Amen.
Because you might want to check your history book. You want to put up a monument that says, no matter how much we did to the descendants of African people, God has allowed them to be true to the words of the poemist who said, Maya Angelou, still I rise.
Amen.
Still I rise.
I rise.
No matter what you've done, still I rise.
Amen.
America, we're giving you another chance.
Amen.
And that first point is, God will give you another chance.
Amen. Amen.
Then you look at the text, and the text keeps moving, and the story keeps going. Then in verse 45, it says, Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zaphaneh-Parneh. And think about that now. As people, like when sometimes, depending on where you are, people always won't let you be you in every way.
Amen.
They want to change something.
That's right.
But sometimes you got to realize when a change is made, you can't tear up the whole scenario because you don't like that one change. That's why I try to be a collaborative leader. I try to work with folks wherever I can work with them. My wife, my children, my family members, my friends, my fraternity brothers. If I can't agree with you on this, what can we agree on that we can work on and get done? Because there's always some work to be done.
Amen.
Let's just get this done. Then we'll come back to that. Not saying you shouldn't ever deal with hard things, but don't let hard things stop you in your tracks to where there's no progress.
Amen.
And that's what happens in our politics far too often. No progress. Then everybody suffers. And these folks don't even realize they suffering. Because when rich folk don't realize it, poor folk don't have money, they ain't buying nothing.
Amen.
And sooner or later you're going to suffer.
Amen.
Because you're going to look at your money, you're going, I done spent this money down. Having me a good time, but didn't no money come in.
Amen.
Because you forgot to help the person out that was spending the money that was coming in.
Amen.
Listen to me when I tell you. Listen to me now. Then the text goes on and says Joseph tells us he was 30 years old. That Pharaoh put him over all of Egypt. Then it said, then in verse 47 it says, during the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentifully. And it said Joseph, in verse 48, Joseph collected all the food and the produce for 7 years of abundance. And he was wise. And it says he took this food and that was grown and in the surrounding fields. He put storage places in to hold this food. Then there in verse 49 it says Joseph stored up huge quantities of grain like the sands of the sea. It said it was so much that he stopped counting the record because it was beyond measure. Now you see what happened. Now this is a message to somebody. When you just want to be in charge because you got the power to be in charge, but you don't want to put somebody in charge that can really make a difference, that's why you have a little accomplishment and not a whole lot of accomplishment. Amen. Because you didn't get the right person in that God wanted to be in.
Amen.
See, I'm talking to somebody this morning. Some of us got to step aside. Some of us got to step up. And some of us need to just sit down.
Amen.
I don't know who I'm talking to this morning, but I'm talking to somebody. Because you need to understand and you need to know. That's how the Lord works sometimes. Then after that it says, before the famine came, a wonderful thing happened there. In verse 50 it says he had, Joseph has two sons. By Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. Says, now listen to this. He says he named the first son Manasseh. It said it's because God has made me forget all my troubles in all my father's houses. So Joseph is saying, everywhere I went, pretty much if somebody was over me, God has allowed me to come up.
Amen.
My brothers were mad at me, but my birth daddy made me the coat of many colors. They were mad at me. They got mad at me because we were just talking. I was sharing with them my dreams. And I told them that, one day I was going to be over a bunch of people. They didn't like that. And they got mad and they threw me in a hole. They threw me in a hole and they were going to kill me. But my oldest brother said, no, don't kill him now. That is our brother. Let's just put him in the hole. And when he was in the hole, some people came, some people were coming by. They got him out the hole and sold him into slavery to the Mennonites. And they hold on to him for a little while, and then they take him down to Egypt and sell him again. Then he's working over a big estate, and while he's working over that big estate, he gets put in prison. But even in prison, he's sitting and talking with the right people in prison. And one guy tells him, well, when I get out of this prison, you know what, I'm going to remember you. And he did. He was the one that told Pharaoh, look, I was in prison. That was this guy named Joseph. Man, he told me about my dream. He told me I was going to get out and look at me. I'm out. I'm talking to you.
Amen.
And Joseph is saying, acknowledging now that after all this stuff, look what God did.
Amen. Amen.
Look what God did. Out of all this stuff. Out of all this stuff, look what God did.
Amen.
Amen.
And my second point. See, when you look at this verse 51, Joseph said, the Lord helped him to forget all his troubles. And let me tell you something. My second point is you got to learn to forget what is behind you so you can get ready for what's in front of you.
Amen.
You got to forget what's behind you so you can get ready for what's in front of you.
Amen.
Because see, it is true that God will make you fruitful in the land of your suffering. Joseph, in all the places he went, in all the times that he suffered, now he's risen from prison to second in command.
Amen. Amen.
Second in command.
Second.
So some of y'all might want to be first, but second, this kind of second is not bad at all.
Amen. Amen.
I'm telling you, God will make you fruitful in the land of your suffering.
Amen.
In America, you need to look in your mirror and realize God has made us African Americans fruitful in the land of our suffering.
Amen.
No matter how many times you knock us down, try to keep us down. No matter how many laws you came up with to keep us out, to lord over us, there have been those of us that God keep lifting up.
Amen.
And let me tell you something, African American people. When God lifts you up, don't get so high and mighty that you ain't no earthly good. Look back and find somebody else that needs to be lifted up.
That's right.
And either pray them out or stick your hand over there and get a little dirt on it and pull them out.
Amen. Amen.
We got to stop leaving our people in conditions that God has delivered us from.
Amen.
And we got to start sharing the story of how you get up.
Amen.
How do you make it?
Amen.
When everything around you is going crazy. Let me rush on to a close.
Amen.
Then in verse number 52, it said, the second son, he named Ephraim, and said it because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering. Won't God make you fruitful
Amen.
in the land of your suffering?
That's right.
He will make you fruitful in the land of your suffering. Then you go on down and it says in verse number 53, it says, in the 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end. See, that's the thing. See, that's why you got to get ready. That's why I tell my little daughters all the time, if you keep finding reasons to spend your money, you ain't going to have no money. You got to leave some of them reasons alone because you need to hold some money over here so that when suffering comes, when the pandemic comes, and a gallon of juice is no longer the same price, when the pandemic comes, And the supplies you need, like Clorox wipes, you can't hardly find them when you do. They're not the price they once were. When the pandemic comes, and there's not enough beef and chicken on the shelves for you to get your usual quantity, and what you do find going to cost you a little bit more. You need some money saved over here so that God can get you through the pandemic.
Amen. Amen.
Because God is going to get us through this pandemic.
That's right.
But we got to do it God's way.
Amen.
You can't sit up here and be indifferent to what the CDC is saying and think God's going to get you through. You got to do it God's way.
Amen.
Amen.
See, I'm not trying to run from God. I know God knows where I am, and I expect God to come get me one day. But I always tell God, I'm not going to do anything to help you. That means I'm going to try to do right. I'm going to try to live right. I'm going to try not to be risky.
Amen.
And then God has to come get me. I'm going to interject the story, and I'm going to be done. Then there's the story of an old fella named John. And they told old John that night he was watching the news. It said a flood was coming, and his zip code was in the flood. And John told all his loved ones, I'm not going to leave my house. I'm going to wait on the Lord. Then the flood waters started rising. And so a boat came through with the sheriff and fire department on it. The water's rising. And they tell John, John, you got to come on. The water's rising. John said, no, I'm waiting on the Lord. And John, the water kept rising. John had to cut a hole in his roof and got up on the roof. And it came by in the helicopter and said, John, you better come on now. This area is going to flood. It's flooding. You see the water all around the house. It's flooding bad. It may even come up on your roof. John, you better get on this helicopter. Nope. I'm waiting on the Lord. And finally, John wakes up, thought he was in a dream. He said, where am I? Everything's bright and everything's white. And they informed John, you're in heaven. So how did I get in heaven? He said, well, you kept waiting on the Lord. And God said, I was going to leave you there a little while longer, John. I sent the sheriff and the fire department by to get you. You wouldn't leave. You wouldn't leave, John. You didn't leave when the news came across the TV. You wouldn't leave. When they sent the helicopter by, you wouldn't leave. So I had nothing else to do, John, but to send my angels to bring you to me.
Amen. Amen.
Now don't wind up like John unless it's your time to be John.
Amen.
Put your mask on.
Amen.
Amen.
Social distance from people.
Amen. Amen.
And let God take you through the pandemic.
That's right.
On to the other side.
True.
To whatever's on the other side. Let him do that for you.
Amen.
And finally, my beloved, let me rush to a close by telling you this. You know, the story is a familiar story. And when the famine get bad, the people have to come to Joseph. And Pharaoh tell them, look here, y'all go see Joseph. And Joseph will take care of you. He will tell you what to do. He will do what's right for you. Then let me tell you this. Because you need to know this. You need to know this. That God will make you fruitful. That's the last point.
Amen.
In the land of your suffering.
That's right.
You see, look what happened at Calvary. When they decided to take your Savior and my Savior. When they decided to put him, an old rugged cross on him and march him around the city. And when they marched him on up Golgotha's hill. Let me tell somebody today, when they took your Savior and my Savior and hung him out there from the 6th to the 9th hour, hung him there till he couldn't hang no more. I don't mind telling you that the first phrase of words he uttered was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Amen.
And I don't mind telling you that along the journey of death, he told John, behold your mother. Told his mother, woman, behold your son.
Amen.
And I don't mind telling you that when it was all said and done, he said, the Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit, because it's finished. Wait 1 minute. Let me tell somebody that Jesus died on Calvary. Just like Jesus, so that God could do what he did for Jesus. He can do for us. He can bless us. He can give us what we need. And God can make you fruitful in the land of your suffering. Look what they did to Jesus. And look at how many of us serve him now. See, Jesus became fruitful in the land of his suffering because he started with 12 disciples. But those disciples kept something going that still goes on today. And that is that many of us that have been blood bought. We've been baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. There's many of us. There's some things we won't do because we're holding on to God's unchanging hand. And I want you to know And I want you to know, he'll make you fruitful
Fruitful.
in the land of your suffering.
Amen.
And if you want to be fruitful in the land of your suffering, keep holding on
Amen.
to God's unchanging hand.
Amen.
To this time next week, I apologize for my emotions, but I don't apologize for preaching God's word. And because God has been good to me. God has been good to me. He's been very good to me. And I want you to know,
when the soul caught on fire.
see, and that's what happened to me this morning. My soul was just trying to get on fire. And God, do you love Jesus? Do you love Jesus?
Amen.
See, don't tell me you love Jesus and you for laws that hurt women and children,
Amen.
people because of their color. I love Jesus. I love Jesus. You love Jesus. Keep loving him. Till this time next week.
Amen. Amen.